Let me get to MKB. Michael
Yeah.
Kaskey-Blomain, 97.3 ESPN.com. Of course, covered the team the last couple of seasons. He's been around Colangelo and the organization, and certainly can give us some thoughts on this. He joins us now on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. MKB, what's up, bud?
Mike, not so much, man. How you doing?
Well, Brett Brown got an extension.
Yeah, there we go.
All right. So you tweeted out that you have tried, but you just don't see a way that the accounts don't belong to Colangelo. What are, to you, the options here? What are there multiple options, or is it black and white? It's either he did it or he's innocent.
I don't think it's necessarily black and white, Mike. I usually tend to like to give someone the benefit of the doubt, as you guys were just talking about before I came on. Obviously, the Sixers are conducting their own investigation. Obviously, I'm very eager, like everybody else, to see what the results of that are. But, I mean, if it's not him, Mike, it either has to be someone that is obviously extremely close to him and privy to, his thoughts and information that he has from the team, or it's the most elaborate troll scheme in the history of the internet and Twitter, which just seems kind of far-fetched. So, I mean, one way or another, I think it has to, as they say, where there's smoke, there's fire, and there just seems to be too much smoke in this case.
Yeah, I mean, to me, there's three options here. It's either him, someone close to him, or somebody who wants to frame him. Like you said, a troll scheme. It could be a troll, or it could be someone that just never liked him, wants him out, and waited for the most inopportune time, which is right before free agency. And if you really think about it, Michael, many people thought the Sixers would be in the finals, and this story's coming out a day before the finals. Can you imagine if the Sixers were getting ready to play a game tomorrow night?
That would be, just as it has with two teams that aren't even involved in this, the story has already taken over the NBA. It would be, the sole focus, and I can't even imagine how the Sixers players, I mean, we've seen, obviously, Joell was on Twitter, Rashawn had some things to say, Justin Anderson. I mean, that would be extremely difficult for those guys to concentrate with this going on.
No doubt. All right, so if the investigation takes place, Mike, and he's cleared, we can't find anything. Eric Jr., not him. Ballin, not him. All these burner accounts, they can't find anything. Can he still remain the guy?
I really don't know, Mike. I think that at this point, unless they literally can pinpoint one person that had set up this frame job over the course of a couple of years now, dating back to, whenever the account started.
Can I just pause you right there, because you just made a great point that these accounts have been active since what, 2016, right? So this isn't just Colangelo a couple years down the road on the job creating it. This has been going on over a period of his time here.
Right, and he's becoming, he was increasingly more active. At first, it was mainly that he was just, not necessarily writing things on these accounts, but just liking tweets or retweeting things, and then it became more active. And from what a lot of the things that he said reflect things that I've heard directly from sources with the team, like some of the tweets about Nerlens Noel and how the team, favored over Noel. These were things that I was told and reported, here on with you and other places from sources within the team. And, then these are getting tweeted out by this account. So it's either someone that had the exact same line of thought of the team and Colangelo, or it had to be him.
So just to go back on that, you said a lot of the things that these burner accounts are tweeting are things that you have heard through covering the team from sources close to the team.
Right, 100%, especially the Nerlens Noel. He called, I think, Nerlens Noel a punk and said that, basically that he was a problem in the locker room and that the team, kind of favored Okafor because he was more of a class act. These were things that I heard directly from sources with the team when it was going on, at the time. So for these tweets to be saying almost exactly that same thing in a similar line of thought, just seems to be, almost too coincidental.
What do you make of Joel's reaction? I mean, first, it's just a picture of him on draft night with that look on his face. Then it's a follow-up of him essentially lambasting the quote-unquote burner account, saying that Sam Hinkie is better and smarter than you. And quickly thereafter, a comment to ESPN saying everything's cool. He told me he didn't do it, but if he did, it would look really bad. So where do you think Joell is? Because this morning he said, hey, had a lot of fun last night, but I don't think he did it.
Yeah, Mike, it's a great point. And obviously, I don't know for a fact. Obviously, I haven't talked to Joell. But to me, the way that unfolded was, his thought process was he saw this report. He put out that first tweet with the draft meme of his face when he was first drafted, which was, initial probably shock and surprise to see this, being reported about your GM and a guy that obviously you interact with and has a huge role in, your day-to-day. So I think he was shocked. And then I think the tweet that he sent out about Sam Hinkie being better and smarter was a genuine tweet. I think he was angry. I think those are how he really feels about the situation. And I think that was him coming out with, he said that he doesn't use burner accounts. He says what he wants to say through his own account. I think that was him being genuine. And obviously, I think within minutes of that coming out, the team, reached out to him, the PR department, and asked him, told him basically to scale it back, that they were going to do this, this investigation. And obviously, if it turned up bad, he would, he would be dealt with appropriately. But until then, I really think they asked him to, put out this tweet that kind of scaled it back, where he says, I don't believe it, but where he leaves the door open. I think that's what happened.
Is there any concern about the current players on the team? Like, if Colangelo, it's found, we did the investigation, we can't find anything, and the Sixers decide we're going to stick with him, is there any concern that the players on the team, there could be major problems?
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. I would have a major concern about that. I honestly don't see, like I said, unless there's literally pinpointed a culprit that was responsible for this, unless that happens, I don't see a way. If it was someone close to Colangelo, if it was him himself, if it was just leaked information that was somehow, got out to someone that either wanted to do Colangelo in, or just wanted to have information out there. No matter what the case, I don't see a situation where players on this team, like a Joell or a Markelle Fultz, who he lambasted on some of those tweets, how they can trust that guy. And that, I think that's
wasn't there a story? Didn't Bodner have a story suggesting that the Sixers or somebody was critical of Fultz's train? Was that Bodner who had that story, or somebody at The Athletic that had the story about they were critical of his trainers and that they changed his shot and that's why his shoulder was injured? Wasn't that a story that came out this year?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't remember if it was Bodner. It might have been Kyle Neubeck from Philly Voice. But, yeah, that was it was absolutely a story that came out, and that goes back to what we were kind of just saying, where, what some of us in the media have heard from team sources goes hand in hand with what some of these tweets are saying on the accounts.
Right. So a lot of the things that we're seeing from these burner accounts are things that constantly keep coming up. The Fultz stuff was interesting, too, because he essentially took kind of a swipe at Brett Brown, suggesting that Brown tried sabotaging the pick by not playing him. And that's something that, was kind of that was a question that I really was wishing that at the last press conference got dug in on a little bit more, which was, did Colangelo wish to see more of Fultz? And now he did say, hey, I was supportive of him, but, that whole thing with him kind of taking a shot at Brown or the burner account suggests otherwise. So that whole Fultz story, I don't know that has been cleared up yet.
Yeah, that's the strangest part, or not, it's hard to pinpoint it. One of the stranger parts to me was that swipe at Brett Brown. Colangelo has obviously always been pretty, pro Brett Brown publicly. He obviously just, okayed this extension hours before the report came out last night. So, you think that he at least, favors Brett Brown in some way. So it was kind of strange to see that suggestion. But that is another thing that was, wondered aloud, I think, at the time by a lot of people, was if, Fultz not playing was strictly Brown's decision, or if it was coming down from Colangelo. And I think that, that's something we never got a direct answer to. But I think if it does end up being him with these burner accounts, I think we get somewhat of an idea into, how it played out.
Michael Kaskey-Blomain is with us. So Dietrich gets a tip that these 5 Twitter accounts are very similar in their tone and the information. He then calls the 76ers and tips them off to 2 accounts, which is very smart by him. The other 3 accounts then go from public to private. I mean, is that the biggest red light for you, or is there something more here that suggests and signs point what sign points to Colangelo the biggest for you?
I mean, that's definitely a big one. In the report, it said specifically that, Dietrich and the Ringer told, like you said, the Sixers only about the two, not about the other three. And the Sixers said that they told, no one else in the organization of the two other than Colangelo. And then they went private, which means that, basically either the information was leaked somehow or that Bryan was the only one with that information, which is obviously, a smoking gun there pretty much. I think you could go up and down the list. There was several things. Obviously the account tweeting about and following, Colangelo's son at, I think it was the University of Chicago college basketball would be, seems kind of like a pretty big, strange coincidence. There's just too many, I think. Maybe any one individual detail you could potentially kind of write off, but altogether, I think Dietrich did a really good job in that article of just kind of layering one, as you said, smoking gun on top of the other that just makes it look, it would take a very interesting explanation to hear how this would not be Bryan Colangelo.
Is the only explanation as to why, if this is in fact him or somebody connected to him, is the only explanation that jealousy or insecurities that he's not getting the just due that he thinks he deserves for the success of this team, and that the obvious cloud of Hinkie still lingers over this team and the fan base?
I think so, Mike. I think, from what people have been saying, since this report came out, and I think what you could kind of tell from some of the comments he's made since he came here, I don't think Bryan's the most, secure guy. I think he definitely has some insecure tendencies. I think he came in a very strange circumstance initially where, a big portion of the fan base was absolutely not in favor of his hiring and was, very vocal in favor of his predecessor, which I'm sure for someone that, is in a high position like that and wants the respect that comes with the position probably, certainly rubbed him the wrong way. And honestly, I think that if it ends up being him, it just seems like one of those things where he didn't think, he didn't think that the breadcrumbs would necessarily all add up to the point that, a detective on Twitter, the reporting that Dietrich was able to do would really, be compiled to the point that he would be able to found guilty. I think it could honestly just be, naivety or an oversight on his part and something that he thought, I'll get away with this. And he, just didn't.
If you're Colangelo and you feel that you're innocent and that this is just bonkers, wouldn't you speak today?
Yeah, and the fact, the Brett Brown extension, which is super unfortunate that we're not really even getting to talk about in this situation, is something that you think would, command a press conference the next day. You're announcing that, the guy is going to be here for 3 more years, which is basically saying you think he's going to be the coach that is, the right guy to lead you to a championship. That's the type of thing that you would get a press conference for. So I think not only the fact that he's not saying anything, but the fact that there's no media availability in regards to the Brett Brown thing, which kind of makes it look like he's almost hiding from the media, is just, I think it's a bad look all around. I think it does not make him look, not guilty in this situation. I think having the media report, Woj is out there reporting that he's reaching out to the players and different pieces are trickling out through different sources. I think that's a bad look. I think, like you said, if you're free of guilt in this situation, you get up at, 10 or 11 today at the training complex in Camden and you make a statement and, you stand by it.
Did the statement from the Sixers indicate to you that they're pissed?
Yeah, I think so, Mike. I don't know how that, how they could not be, especially considering the stakes of this situation and the really negative media that this brings and honestly, the jeopardy that it puts the future of the franchise in with, reports of high-end free agent possibilities this summer. I think if you put the leadership of the organization in flux like it is right now, where players have questions about, if they can trust the general manager, I think that's a huge issue for a team that has, come so far in this rebuilding process to now have it potentially derailed by, silly antics by the general manager. I'm almost positive the organization is, very, very upset with this situation right now.
I don't know how much you know about the algorithms and the setup of Twitter and the suggestions, but that the IP addresses would suggest, location. And if you go to set up a Twitter account right now and try to follow any of those burner accounts, they suggest to follow Phila 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Is that an oddity?
I don't think so, Mike. And I also noticed last night, the Sixers Twitter has obviously been working around the clock nonstop. People linked together. I think that the email addresses for several of the accounts were the same, including the one that was admittedly used by Colangelo, the Phila one. I think they had shared email addresses, and I think in some cases shared recovery phone numbers.
The Phila account had the last 2 digits were 75, which apparently has been confirmed as his phone number, and the other 3 have a number, the last 2 digits of 91. So the Phila one was separate phone number wise from the other 3. I did see that.
Okay, that's good to know then. So, but I mean, there was definitely some other oddities.
And by the way, the email address was, the first 2 letters were BP, and apparently his middle name is Paul, for Bryan Paul Colangelo.
Yeah, there we go. There was, no shortage of little oddities like that, Mike. And I think that, it would be honestly pretty astonishing to me at this point if someone was able to pull this off. Because like you alluded to, this is something that would have had to have been set in the making for a couple of years now, and, would have required a lot of patience, a lot of research to have, the timing of some of these tweets and the insight of, some of them, as far as the Okafor not passing a physical with another team. That's something that has never been reported, publicly, and that's something that, if that's true, that only someone with inside knowledge of the situation would know.
Well, here's a question that you would know, okay? Since Hinkie's been gone and Colangelo has taken over, now, I don't know about you, but the people that I deal with, and I'm assuming, I'm not sitting here telling you to give up sources or anything to that matter, but a lot of the guys that would be in that area are new. Like, they're all gone. A lot of the people, anyway, the people that I dealt with, they're gone. Like, these are all new people, right? I mean, how many holdovers are there from the previous regime in, say, public relations or office level jobs or anything to that effect that would be a disgruntled previous employee that is out to get him?
Yeah, I mean, that's an excellent point, Mike. And to that point, it is almost a completely different regime, especially in the the PR department and the front office. Obviously, since Hinkie was here, certainly shifts in sources and people that we've been dealing with in that situation. As far as like the sales department and stuff, I think there's a lot of holdovers in that situation. But as far as someone that would have be privy to the information and the access and everything to set that up, it would be, very few people, I think, that would be able to orchestrate something like that over the period of time that we're talking about.
Right. And I mean, I don't know the setup, but I can't imagine that the sales team is readily around the basketball operations side, that they would be getting information of this level to be able to intricately tweet out things to the manner of Eric Jr., for an example, one of the burner accounts.
Right, that's exactly true. They would be, even if they were around for both regimes, they would not be privy to the information necessary to do that. The only people that really would have to be people, in the front office, really directly tied to the decision-making of the team. And like you said, that there's not a lot of crossover, basically no crossover between the guys that were here with Sam and who's here now. So, again, that leaves, very few options in my mind as to, who could perpetrate this act other than Colangelo himself.
By the way, former Sixer for a cup of coffee, Trevor Booker, he tweeted, "I don't think it's true." Then he says, "Yeah, I'm looking at all the evidence now, and it's not looking good." So his mind was changed over a period of about an hour based on things that were going on last night. If you were just following along on Twitter last night, boy, it was a roller coaster of emotion. So, Michael, before we get a quick comment on Brett Brown from you, because I think that is certainly fair, do you have anything to add that we didn't touch on that you think that is consequential to this story and should be told to the listeners?
Most consequential, well, obviously what we were talking about before, Mike, that I just think it's too coincidental with things that I've, been told from sources within this team to what he was saying in a lot of these burner accounts. It just seems to be shared knowledge and opinion, and it's just too much to be coincidental. Obviously, that's where I stand on the situation, and I think that the future of the team, I don't want to be overly dramatic and say it's in jeopardy, but this situation is very important, and I think the longer that it takes for a situation or an outcome to be done with the Sixers as far as their investigation, I think the worse it gets. I think this needs to be handled today or tomorrow at the latest before it gets into the weekend and lingers on.
Well, and I guess the interesting question here would be, if in fact, I know this is cynical of me, but if in fact he is in trouble and did do these things to make the move, is it almost a blessing in disguise, or do you think that Colangelo was a key factor in free agency this offseason? Because that was the story when he came, was that Hinkie would never get free agents, and that Colangelo had all this clout among high-level free agents from his USA basketball ties with his father. So do you think losing Colangelo would be detrimental to landing the high-level guy?
I think potentially losing him in this situation and at this time could be detrimental. I honestly don't think that he would have been the difference maker in, say, the Sixers landing LeBron James or a Paul George or Kawhi Leonard or not. He made some solid moves for the team last summer when he was able to, frankly, outbid some of the other teams for guys like J.J. Redick or an Amir Johnson, or make those moves at the deadline. He did not. At this point in his tenure with the team, at least in my mind, he hasn't done anything that has shown me that he's the right guy to steer this team going forward. Obviously, his biggest move still is a question mark. I'm still very confident in Markelle and what he'll become. But after watching Tatum and giving up another draft pick, it's definitely going to be something that you have to keep an eye on. And I think it could be definitely detrimental to the guy's signing, but in the end, it could be a blessing in disguise.
All right, Michael Kaskey-Blomain, your thoughts. Brett Brown gets a 3-year extension, and obviously that happened first last night, but didn't get a lot of attention because of this. But, Colangelo has to sign that deal, which is interesting. You wonder if he tried to sign that deal knowing that a bombshell was about to come and that might overshadow things. However, the 3-year deal tells me that this isn't just, hey, we want to extend you for one more and evaluate, you were a lame dunk, we'll give you. They're committed to him. They believe that he's the right guy.
Yeah, 100%, Mike. That's the first thing. When you see a 3-year extension on top of the year he already had left, that's 4 more years, which is, basically the near future with this core that you have now, and obviously Embiid, Simmons, Dario, Markelle, which, like you just said, that tells me that the team is saying basically that this is the guy that we trust and we think can be the guy that leads us to, where we want to go. In my mind, I think it's obviously well-deserved. I've been a very pro Brett Brown guy the entire time. I think he obviously deserves the opportunity. In the first year that he was asked to, do anything with this team, we saw a 52-30 team that went to the second round. I think he's earned the chance, and obviously we'll see, we'll see what he can do going forward.
Michael Kaskey-Blomain at The Real Mike KB. You can check out his Sixers coverage at 97.3 ESPN.com. And this offseason and draft just got a little crazier. Thanks, pal.
Thanks, Mike.